How's everyone doing this morning? Good. That's good to hear. Woo. I didn't know I was going to have to carry this thing out here like this. You see a little strain going? It's heavier than it looks. Thought it was light. Ryan, you didn't prepare me, man. You didn't tell me how much this weighed. All right. Well, it's always weird. You know, I'm just a little bit bigger than Rob, but every time I step up here, I feel like I'm like filling in such big shoes, you know. I always feel pressure. It's like he's here. He's like, come on, Ray, you got this. You know, don't mess up. But it's always a pleasure. It's always a privilege to stand before you guys and just share what God has given me through the week for you. And it's just an absolute blessing. Before I even do that, I have to say thank you so much. Yesterday, we were able to start our ACT class at the Huntsville Inner City Learning Center. Round of applause. It was great for the students that came out. It was an amazing experience. We still have some spots we're working towards getting it completely filled, but we just had to go ahead and get started and said, you know, it will pick up traction. But it was absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for your giving, your support. It has made just a huge difference, and it's going to be a life-changing experience. So I'm really excited about that. Well, today we're going to be talking about something that's near and dear to my heart. For those who know me, I actually have a couple of my students in here today, and you know that I love the concept of growth. We've been talking about this for like the last year and a half. My kids are probably tired of hearing about it. You guys start? Yeah, just a little bit. Wait, are you serious? Okay, thank you. All right, so you just have to make sure. All right, there's still a lot more to go, Chase, for this year, so I don't have to throw out all my stuff, man. You know, it's like delete all my Evernote notes, right? But we've been talking about growth in this starting series for this year. In our staff meeting, we were talking about the concept of leveling up. And it's funny because when we first started talking about the Level Up series, I'm not going to throw any names out here, but when we first started talking about the Level Up series, there were a few people in our staff meeting that didn't know what leveling up was. All right, you're laughing? You know who it was? Let's not say any names, okay? All right, so we actually had to break down the concept of leveling up to just a couple people, maybe one or two, who didn't understand what leveling up was. Well, when we started talking about the Level Up series, it took me back to my days when I was still in college, when I had a little more time without the business, without the family, without the ministry. I had just a little bit more time on my hands, you know? And I used to play this game. I used to play this game. All right, and I was okay at it. You know, I'll show you guys some pictures after. You know, I wasn't like ranked nationally or anything. I didn't play that much, but I used to put in some time into this game. And, you know, that's one of the things that we talked about in the staff meeting. I was breaking down how leveling up works. And this is the first thing I think about when I think about leveling up in the game is COD. All right, I see a COD smile right there, okay? We have a COD smile. I appreciate that, okay? So the thing about Call of Duty, one, I'm not going to say that. I was going to say this is a very toxic environment, okay? On Call of Duty, you got to be girded in the armor of God to play Call of Duty and keep your faith. But the thing about Call of Duty I found really interesting is that when you play online, there's a ranking system. You get in the game, you get online, and you don't just have everything available immediately, right? And so what you do is as you play the game, you get into a game, you get into a lobby, you join, and your performance as you get, you know, kills or assists or as you capture flags and do different things, you get points for each thing, and those count as experience points. And as you collect these experience points, you start to kind of fill this bar, and after you hit a certain number of experience points, you get an unlock. You unlock something. And what happens as you're playing the game is that the things that you're unlocking, the perks or the equipment, it gets subsequently better. So when I first started the game, I might not have, especially if I played before, I might not have all the things I'm used to, you know, so I'm not really playing in the style that I want to. I haven't unlocked something yet. So, you know, I was like, there's a perk called Dead Silence. You run around, people can't really hear you the same. And these games are immaculate. I mean, you can see shadows, you can hear footsteps. There's like all these things, right? And so you can't always play exactly the way you want because you have not unlocked everything yet because you just haven't put in enough time. But there's something else that's really interesting about this system. I don't know if you guys can see that up there, but level 1, you have 0 experience points. What starts happening to the experience points as your levels go up? They get higher. You start to need more experience just to go one more level up. Now, I want you guys to take a mental note. Level 6, we could do some quick math. I'm not going to put anyone on the spot, but it looks like that's going to be roughly 20,000 points, right, to get through the first 6 levels. Does that seem reasonable? Estimation? Okay, math people? All right, watch this. Level 70, as you get to the higher levels, what you realize is what it took you to get through the first 10 is just a fraction of what it will take you to get through the last 1. Are you guys with me? Okay? Oddly enough, when I start playing Call of Duty, usually in the first 3 games, I can get to level 10. But when you start looking at level 68, 69, 70, it could take you anywhere weeks to get through those levels. You guys following? And it's so funny how as we unlock these different things, we get better, we get to create our loadout, we get to take the things that we want, but you have to work to get the option. And oddly enough, I don't want to be the cliche youth minister that ties Call of Duty into the Bible, but I mean, I think you guys are all tracking. So yes, I am that guy right now. Can't shake it. All right, I'm that guy. So if you look at the way that our Christian life goes, a lot of times when we're new in the faith, we can go through hurdles relatively quickly. Man, God saved me. And I don't like saying this to glamorize, to glorify, be like, oh, Ray, you went through so much. It's not even like that. But, I mean, honestly, God has taken me through a lot in my life for ministry purposes. I like to think about it like that, for ministry purposes. But I remember just the time that I was broken, most hurt, most lost was actually about the same time I was playing Call of Duty in college. And God had to take me and help me to see that he had so much more for me. And as we started this journey, it felt like I was just jumping over these hurdles. I started losing the taste for certain things. I started kind of moving away from some situations and not really seeing them the same way, knowing that, do you guys get what I'm saying? So it was kind of moving quickly, kind of going through these different levels relatively quickly. But without fail, like almost everything that when we learn, if you look at the learning curve, you go pretty fast, right? And what starts to happen is you get to the top. Starts to plateau. Starts to go a little slower, much like Call of Duty system. And what God was showing me as I was preparing this is in our journey, there's some things that still need to be unlocked. I could just walk off right now. All right. There's some things that still need to be unlocked. There's some things that we can't take to the battlefield with us because we haven't put enough experience in to unlock those things. Does that make sense? Okay, so as we move forward, this text hit me different. It's funny, this weekend was insane. I mean, it's one of the toughest weekends I've had in a while. I normally get to take Saturdays off a little bit, and then yesterday ended up being like 8 o'clock in the morning to like 9:30 at night. Almost straight through the day. And so it was really intense. And I was just like, I was praying. I was like, Lord, I need your help because I was juggling so much. And I didn't really get the time to sit down with this like I wanted to. And I was praying. And I actually, I'm sorry, I'm going to say this, don't judge me, but I actually shed a single tear because God gave it to me. He was like, here, this is what I wanted you to say. I was like, I'm like laying in bed, I'm like high-key crying. I'm like, thank you so much. Thank you so much. And I was listening to James. I put my earbud in, I'm listening to James. And I zoned off. I went through the first chapter. I zoned off a little bit. And I woke up. And the last thing I heard was the last verse. And James, you're going to see it in the middle of it. I got y'all. You're going to see it in a little bit. So this text right here is powerful. It says, "Dear brothers and sisters, when troubles of any kind come your way, consider it an opportunity for great joy. For you know that when your faith is tested, your endurance has a chance to grow." So sometimes you're sitting and you're playing Call of Duty, your thumbs get sore, right? You get tired, your throat is dry, okay? Like you're really struggling, your eyes might get weak, right? Your eyes twitching, okay? And you just keep pressing on, right? You grind it out, right? You keep going. Spiritually, we have those times as well where you guys know, I don't have to explain it. When the Holy Spirit is pressing you to forgive that person, or pressing you to talk to that person, or pressing you to give to that person, right? And those are those uncomfortable things, or when things get hard and you don't know the way. I think that we have a lot of people who like to be in control in this world. Okay? I'm talking to myself too. We have a conversation. It's me and you, right? We have a lot of people who like to be in control, and sometimes God is pressing us to give him control. I don't like to walk where I can't see, and God says, what you see ain't enough. I'm just gonna move on. All right, so it will let you grow. When your endurance has a chance to grow, we will have some things, we'll build some things that we can take with us, and it says, so let it grow. See, that's what's crazy. I'm gonna show a slide in a little bit. Sometimes we don't let things grow. Sometimes we stifle growth. We just won't take our hands off of it and let God let it do what it does. So let it grow, for when your endurance is fully developed, you will be perfect and complete, needing nothing. And so I read that and I just snapped back just to kind of build a parallel. I was thinking about like when you don't have enough playing the game and you don't have everything you need, you always feel like you're missing something. This is cool, but only if I had my favorite perk, only if I had my favorite loadout, I would be so much more comfortable. I'll be able to do exactly what I want to do, how I want to do it. And when I get to level 70, I don't have that feeling anymore. Does that make sense? I don't have that feeling of longing for what I don't have because I have what I need. I'm not feeling like I missed anything. And it's like the game is complete for me. For me. One of my favorite talks, I came across this back in 2016. This is one of my hands down favorite talks, the TED Talk. This guy is brilliant. His name is Bill Ekstrom. And he shares this amazing story. The name of the TED Talk is Why Comfort Will Ruin Your Life. It's on YouTube. Highly recommend it. Right? Why Comfort Will Ruin Your Life by Bill Ekstrom. And he breaks down this concept that he developed through a tough experience called the growth rings. And in particular, he talks about a couple of situations where he's experienced growth and his daughter, and another situation he breaks down. But he says that there's these four kind of states of being. Okay, there's four states of being. We have at the bottom stagnation. He makes a little quirk. He says that it's a lot like the government, right? So if you read that, right, it's like stagnation, that environment where it's low performing, right? Negative environment, not a lot of movement, right? Stagnant water always looks gross, right? Kind of has film on top of it because it's not moving, right? It's dead pretty much, okay? Stagnation is one of those environments where you've been in church so long, you become accustomed to it. It's a part of your routine. Nothing's really moving, but it's there. Then he goes to the other spectrum, and he breaks down chaos. Chaos is an environment where things are just completely out of your control, and the turmoil, the madness of it, halts the growth. He likened that a lot to what happens when we have natural disasters, and it's all you can do just to just to keep yourself clean, right? So it's like, you're trying to get gas, you're trying to find a place for your family to stay. It's very hard in those moments to have anything you don't have already. Does that make sense? Not that those things can't cause you to grow as you deal with them, but in that moment of chaos, it's either you have it or you don't, okay? So he breaks that down, and then he talks about order. Now, order is actually one of the scariest ones up there. Order is a comfortable environment that leads to a predictable outcome. Who likes order? Oh yeah, we like order. We like order. I would like for my home not to be broken into every night, right? I like a little order, right? I would like to not be run over when I'm walking on the street, right? Like a little order, okay? We like order. But the problem with order is that it really feeds into our control. It does. And if you look, what we've been talking about upstairs, these kids are brilliant, man. We started talking about fear. And last week, I like to sometimes lead them in thought. I don't always want to be the one that does all the talking and thinking. So we started talking about some background fears. We've been talking about fears, the impact of fears, and in particular, how emotions can sometimes be deemed as bad, but they have function. So we're learning how emotions should be more balanced, to understand what they are and how we handle them properly, and also to acknowledge them in our own lives. So we started talking about fear, and I asked them, what are some of the background fears that we have? Some of the things that we they really dictate our lives when we stop and think about them. And we had some good ones. You guys remember what some of them were? If Maddie was here, she had a really good one. I think Maddie said fear of embarrassment. Fear of embarrassment. Fear of isolation. Fear of acceptance. Right? We had some really good ones. I told them, it's funny because even fear of loneliness, right, will lead you probably into some relationships you don't need to be in. And it's not something that you really think about, but at 16, 17, 18, you start doing some math like, okay, I'm not going to be with my parents forever, right? And I don't want to end up, all by myself in life. So I think I need someone, and he looks cute, okay? He looks cute. And so even that fear of being alone for the rest of your life can lead you to do things that you should probably opt out of. All to find order. Does that make sense? Order seeking can cause problems. But here's what's crazy. He talks about this complexity. And I think this is where God does not, I said think. I know this is where God does his best work. In the complexity of our life. Complexity is an unpredictable environment where the outcomes are unknown. Has anyone been on faith journey before? Doesn't it feel like that? Absolutely. Doesn't it feel like that? When you have to really trust God in the moment. A lot of this stuff is in the moment. In the moment, it's the most uncomfortable thing. And in hindsight, you're like, that made sense. I didn't see it in the moment. That made sense though, God. Like I see it after the fact. But in the moment, that complexity is something that can make you really, really uncomfortable. You guys with me? Amen. Well, he tells a story, Bill tells a story about his daughter, and she was training to do tennis, and as she is playing, the tennis trainer he kind of knew about the growth ring situation, and Bill asked, he said, hey, when's the last time that she's been through complexity? And the trainer says, Bill, it's funny that you say that because it was actually yesterday. She cried. She broke down crying. Bill says something that 6 years ago hit me and still to this day has the same impact. He said that in that moment, he just found out that his daughter's tennis trainer had her crying on a tennis court the day before. how would you react to that situation? You wouldn't be happy? Okay, Bill said this. He said, in that moment, I had to make a tough parent decision. I had to decide whether I would go and save her and make her feel happy again, or allow her to live in a space of complexity so she could grow. Come on, man. Come on now. Come on now. Come on now. See, as a good father, he realized that his child's happiness is not the end-all, be-all when it comes to their development. That's a tough thing to do. Because it's almost human nature, especially moms out there. Oh, baby, what's wrong? Oh, I'm so sorry. No, all of them are bad. It's so easy to swoop in and be super parent and save the day. Sometimes you don't need to do that because in the complexity of their experiences, those are the spaces that they need to grow. I love this. Come over here. It says, James 1, 12 through 15 goes, God blesses those who patiently endure testing and temptation. Afterward, they will receive the crown of life that God has promised to those who love him. And remember, when you are being tempted, do not say, God is tempting me. God is never tempted to do wrong, and he never tempts anyone else. Temptation comes from our own desires, which entice us and drag us away. See, those desires can almost always go back to comfort. I want what I want. I want it when I want it. I want it now. J.G. Wentworth approach, right? It's my comfort and I need it now. The temptation, the things that draw at us and move us away are things that are coming from our own desires. And this is what I love. It says, these desires will give birth to sinful actions, and when sin is allowed to grow, it gives birth to death. That's heavy. When sin is allowed to grow, it gives birth to death. Now, this got me thinking. Sometimes we think death only as, an organism it does not exist anymore, it's ceasing to have life, and it's no longer respirating. But sometimes, spiritual death, emotional death, seeing people who don't have a will to be here, seeing people who don't want to do anything, death of the spirit. And it made me think how when we're not growing, when we're not being equipped with the things that God has for us, it's very hard for us to prevent the death of others. When we can barely prevent the death of ourselves. It's tough. I'll share a little story with you guys. It's pretty personal. And again, I'm not saying this to draw any sympathy or anything like that. It's not the point. It's an object lesson of how God moves. When I was in my college years, came from a pretty rough situation. My mom is an amazing person. I've shared before, my dad and we didn't grow up around each other. He wasn't really a part of my life. So when I was going through college, I was really just trying to make it out. I was trying to change the trajectory of life, and I was working really hard and trying to do all these things, and I was trying stuff and really trying to push forward. And I felt like somehow I was also always anchored to like a ball and chain where I could never go so far from trouble, from stress, from unreasonable life circumstances that seemed to like knock my legs from under me. So by my junior year, I was just having a really hard time. I've always been a pretty good worker. it's funny. I worked at Sam's Club my high school, in my senior year of high school, and I'm working at Sam's Club like 33 hours a week. My mom tried to get me fired twice, right? I was taking honors and APs classes, and I was like lagging, but I wanted the money. I had a girlfriend. I wanted to go out with my friends, so I was like working way too long. I didn't even know that. My manager said, "Hey, man, can you talk to your mom?" I was like, "Oh, she keeps coming up here, man. I feel bad." So, anytime they had something, if someone was out sick, they're like, "Hey, Ray, can you do this training real quick?" And I'll do the training, and then they'll just put me in the slot, right? So I was like the utility guy. So whatever training I need to do, I just do the training, and then I'll just plug into the spot, I'll do the job. So I always felt like I was a really good worker. And then I came to Huntsville, I'm going to school, college situation, get strapped for cash, whatever. So I apply at Circuit City. They're about to close down, and I didn't get the job. Circuit City. How dare they? That's why they're out of business today. And then I know someone that doesn't even have remotely half the work ethic that I have, because I just know him as a person, and he got the job at Circuit City. And I'm like, yo, this is ridiculous. Then I applied for 2 men in the truck, right? Didn't get that. I was like, look at me. Like, I move stuff. That's what I do. We literally move stuff all the time in college for people. Give me a job, right? And so I tried stuff, and it's just like I was turned away every situation. I got so frustrated. I was depressed. I'm like, yo, this is crazy. And it got to the point where stuff was so hard, my mom was going through it, that I didn't have money. I was really struggling, and I'm sitting at home, and it happened for a while, and I'm so depressed, and I'm just like, this is not it. Now, I used to be a lot more athletic. I used to play a lot of basketball back in the day. That has changed a little bit. But when I grew up in Florida, I used to be a Boys and Girls Club kid. So I knew the guys from the park, and I grew up around some guys that weren't the best influences, okay? But my mom always kind of kept us away from that and, trying to make sure that we got our education and did all that. But I had some connections. And I remember, this is how things can change, and this is for a reason. Stay with me. I remember I was at the park, and we were playing, we used to play for money. The guys would call me down. I'm not going to tell you what they called me. It was a nickname. It was horrible. I never want to hear it ever again. But they call me up and like, hey, Red, let's just say that. Hey, Red, come down here. We're playing, $20 a head, and they'd want me to come, especially one guy, we call him J5. You're a problem when your nickname is just a number and a letter, all right? So J5 would hit me up like, Ray, come down here. These guys are coming from St. Pete. I grew up in Clearwater. They're coming out. They want to play for money. And so I show up, and I was like, hey, man, we could do this, but I have no cash on me. So he's like, I got you. I'll cover you. I just need you to play. So we play, and we kind of develop a relationship, and we win money doing that. And so J5, one day, he's like, hey, I know you're up in Alabama, and I know that's not really your speed. You don't really do this, but hey, if you ever want to sell anything up there, hey, let me know. And at the time, things aren't as bad, so I'm like, no, man, I'm good. But at this point, I'm sitting at the Overlook Apartments. I have my phone in my hand, and I'm looking at it. And I'm looking at his name, because I'm like, what else can I do? Rent is due. Like, I'm behind. My mom doesn't have it. I have groceries. I have nothing. So I'm looking at it like, this is an option that was never an option before. And once you know, my phone rang right at that time. And it was my mom. Y'all won't believe this. Y'all won't even believe this. What she said next knocked me off my feet. Well, I was sitting down, so it didn't. Right? But what she said next blew me away. She said, Ray, kid you not, no matter how hard things get, don't you ever sell drugs. The moment I'm looking at the name in my phone, weighing what my life can be, God had to remind me that this is just my complexity. So I said, okay, God, you're gonna have to get me, because this ain't it. And God got me. He took me through that situation. I was able to make it to the other side of the situation. And thank God I didn't have to go that way with my life. But if not for the grace of God, it could have been. You know, I got a call last week from one of my really good guys, probably one of the most talented people I know. Probably one of the most talented people I know. When this dude opens his mouth, you will cry. Crazy talented. And I saw his name. I was supposed to have a session. God just works. God just works. Like, I was supposed to have a session. I got a text from the person, hey, I can't make it in. Oh, it's cool. That's no problem. Shortly after, I get a call. I see his name. Hey, man, what's up? How you doing, bro? To be honest, not doing good, man. So I say, yo, what's wrong, man? And he starts filling me in. He said, Ray, he's emotional. So, Ray, I'm tired. I'm tired, man. He's very emotional. I'm tired. So I'm tired of not having anything. I feel like I'm working so hard. People keep telling me I'm talented. People keep telling me about myself and how I have a bright future and all this stuff and how I made it out the hood. And he's like, and he starts telling me, like, I don't feel like I made it out, man. I don't feel like I have anything to myself. I don't feel like I have anything for me. So I'm tired. And I feel like I keep having to do things the right way, and God keeps telling me, to do things the right way. He's like, I'm tired of doing things the right way. I feel like now right now I just feel like, I don't know, maybe selling drugs or robbing or something. It's like, I just can't do this anymore. I said, bro, I know how you feel. I know how you feel. I told him something, and I'm going to leave you guys with this today, and I want you to really think about this. So I know how you feel. When it looks like the people around you don't have an ounce of the responsibility that you do to do things the right way. I get it. When it doesn't seem like they do remotely as much for God as you do, but they're winning. Or it looks like they're winning. And it's frustrating because they have what you want, and it doesn't seem like they're as faithful, and you're trying to be faithful, and it's not working on your behalf. So I get it. I said, I'm about to tell you something that you don't want to hear. I said, I feel how you feel. I get how you feel. But have you thought that maybe why God still has you in this situation is because robbing, stealing, and selling drugs started to look appealing for you right now? Which means there's something in you that still thinks those things can be appealing. And it was a moment where he was like, whoa, yeah. If God is going to give you what he's going to give you, you think that can be there? No matter what the circumstance, something that causes the death and harm of others should never look appealing. And as long as that's a factor, you're not ready. I told him straight up. There's some things that God still needs to get out of us. Some things that he still needs to work out of us. He's still trying to get us to level up out of, that they just don't show their ugly faces all the time because there's not enough complexity. You guys with me? And what's worst is that we don't let the complexity happen so we don't get exposed, so that we don't have to grow. Because order is easier than the growth and complexity that God wants us to go through so this can be true. This is it. I'm going to get out of here, man. We just got to stop now. I'm getting fired up. I'm about to run off the stage. This is crazy. My dear brothers and sisters, come on, man. If someone among you wanders away from the truth and is brought back, you can be sure that whoever brings the sinner back from wandering will save the person from death and bring about the forgiveness of many sins. Come on, man. This is the last thing I heard last night. When God woke me up, this is the very last thing. And the next chapter of the next book started, and I said, thank you, God. That's a word. That's a word. See, Christianity isn't just about showing up on the day that you show up, reading on the day that you read, or if going to the events on the day that you go. Ultimately, it's about following Christ. And what did Christ come to earth to do? Save us from sin. If we're not replicating that, there's a problem. If we can't be people who can take the complexity of others' lives and help them to see God in those moments and help them to grow, we're not fulfilling our Christ-given responsibility. You see, I've been around church and grown up in church all my life, so I know all of the things that could come with it. I'll end here. Sometimes you're just tired from work. You're tired of keeping up with the kids. You're tired of all the things you have to do. You're exhausted. You just want to have some time for yourself, have some comfort. And that's fine. But not at the expense of your growth. Not at the expense of the lives of others. I challenge you this week, if you haven't experienced complexity recently, talk to God about why. You may not want to, but you need to. Talk to God about why. What can I grow into, Lord? What do you have for me to level up into so that I can have what I need to do what you want me to do?